In March 2013, the quiet city of Peterborough, England, became the epicenter of a killing spree that would challenge conventional understanding of female criminality and serial murder. Joanna Dennehy, a 31-year-old mother of two, embarked on a 10-day reign of terror that would leave 3 men dead and 2 others critically injured. Her case stands as one of the most significant examples of female serial killing in British criminal history, forcing criminologists to reconsider their assumptions about gender, violence, and the psychology of murder. Unlike the majority of female killers who typically target family members or intimate partners using poison or other, passive, methods, Dennehy employed brutal knife attacks against strangers and acquaintances alike. Her crimes were characterized by an apparent randomness and savagery that defied traditional profiles of female perpetrators, making her case a crucial study in understanding the full spectrum of criminal behavior. Joanna Christine Dennehy was born on August 12, 1982, in St. Albans, Hertfordshire, to parents who appeared to provide a stable, middle-class upbringing. Her father, Kevin Dennehy, worked as a security guard, while her mother, Kathleen, was employed in retail. By all external appearances, Joanna grew up in an environment that should have fostered normal development and social integration. However, beneath the surface of this apparently conventional family life, troubling patterns were already emerging in Joanna's behavior and psychological development. As a child, she displayed characteristics that would later be recognized as early warning signs of antisocial personality disorder and psychopathic traits. During her school years, Joanna was described by teachers and classmates as intelligent but emotionally volatile. She demonstrated an early capacity for manipulation and showed little genuine empathy for others. Her academic performance was inconsistent, not because of intellectual limitations, but due to behavioral problems and an apparent lack of interest in conforming to social expectations. As she entered adolescence, Joanna's behavioral problems escalated. She began experimenting with alcohol and drugs at an early age and showed a pattern of seeking out increasingly risky and destructive behaviors. Her relationships with family members became strained as her actions became more unpredictable and harmful to those around her. The transition from childhood to adulthood marked a significant deterioration in Joanna's mental state and behavior. She left home at a young age and began a pattern of unstable relationships and increasingly criminal behavior that would eventually culminate in murder. Her early experiences with the criminal justice system involved relatively minor offenses, but they established a pattern of antisocial behavior that would escalate over time. In her early 20s, Joanna Dennehy's life was characterized by instability, violence, and an apparent inability to maintain normal social relationships. She had 2 daughters with different partners, but her capacity for motherhood was severely compromised by her psychological issues and criminal lifestyle. Joanna's relationships with men were consistently troubled and often violent. She demonstrated a pattern of becoming involved with individuals who were either vulnerable to her manipulation or who shared her antisocial tendencies. These relationships were typically characterized by domestic violence, substance abuse, and criminal activity. Her criminal record during this period included various charges related to theft, assault, and drug-related offenses. However, these earlier crimes gave little indication of the extreme violence she would later perpetrate. The escalation from relatively minor criminal behavior to murder represents one of the most dramatic examples of criminal progression in recent British legal history. During 2012 and early 2013, Joanna became involved with a group of individuals in Peterborough who were engaged in various criminal activities. This association would prove crucial to understanding how her crimes developed and were facilitated. The group included Gary Stretch, a 7-foot-tall man who would become her primary accomplice, and Leslie Layton, who would assist in concealing evidence of the murders. The dynamics within this criminal group were complex and revealed important aspects of Joanna's personality and methods of control. Despite being physically smaller than many of her associates, she quickly established herself as the dominant figure through a combination of psychological manipulation, sexual control, and the threat of violence. On March 19, 2013, Joanna Dennehy committed her first murder, killing 31-year-old Łukasz Slaboszewski in what would become a pattern of brutal knife attacks. Slaboszewski, a Polish national who had come to England seeking work and a better life, became Dennehy's victim through circumstances that illustrate both the random nature of her violence and the vulnerability of marginalized individuals. Łukasz had been living in Peterborough and working various jobs to support himself while sending money back to his family in Poland. His immigrant status and limited social connections in England made him particularly vulnerable to predators like Dennehy, who specifically targeted individuals who were unlikely to be quickly missed or whose disappearances might not be immediately investigated. The murder took place at a property in Ralston Garth, Peterborough, where Dennehy had been staying. The attack was sudden and brutal, involving multiple stab wounds that demonstrated both the ferocity of the assault and Dennehy's apparent comfort with extreme violence. The level of violence employed in this first murder established a pattern that would characterize all of her subsequent attacks. Following the murder, Dennehy displayed a disturbing lack of remorse or emotional response to having taken another person's life. Instead of showing signs of guilt or psychological distress, she appeared energized and even euphoric about what she had done. This reaction provided crucial insight into her psychological state and suggested the presence of psychopathic traits that enabled her to kill without normal emotional consequences. The disposal of Łukasz's body revealed both Dennehy's practical approach to concealing her crimes and the assistance she received from her associates. With the help of Gary Stretch and others, the body was moved and concealed in a way designed to delay discovery and investigation. This coordination between Dennehy and her accomplices would become a consistent feature of her criminal activity. Just 10 days after killing Łukasz Slaboszewski, Joanna Dennehy struck again, this time murdering John Chapman, a 56-year-old man who had been allowing her to stay at his property in Peterborough. Chapman's murder demonstrated Dennehy's willingness to kill even those who had shown her kindness and hospitality, revealing the indiscriminate nature of her violence. John Chapman was described by those who knew him as a gentle, somewhat naive man who often tried to help others, particularly those who appeared to be in difficult circumstances. His decision to allow Dennehy to stay at his property was apparently motivated by genuine concern for her welfare, making his murder particularly tragic and senseless. The circumstances of Chapman's murder revealed important aspects of Dennehy's modus operandi and psychological state. The attack occurred in Chapman's own home, where he should have felt safe and secure. This violation of the domestic space added an additional layer of psychological trauma to the crime and demonstrated Dennehy's complete disregard for social norms and human relationships. Like her first murder, the killing of John Chapman involved multiple stab wounds delivered with extreme force and apparent pleasure on Dennehy's part. Witnesses and accomplices later described her demeanor during and after the attack as excited and energized rather than distressed or remorseful. This emotional response provided further evidence of her psychopathic personality structure. The murder of Chapman also revealed Dennehy's increasing confidence in her ability to kill and evade detection. Rather than being more cautious after her first murder, she appeared to be emboldened by her success in avoiding immediate capture. This psychological escalation is characteristic of serial killers who derive satisfaction from both the act of killing and the sense of power that comes from successfully evading law enforcement. The murder of Kevin Lee on March 29, 2013, marked both the culmination of Dennehy's killing spree in Peterborough and the beginning of her expansion into random attacks on strangers. Lee, a 48-year-old property developer and landlord, had been involved with Dennehy in both business and personal relationships, making his murder a betrayal of trust similar to the killing of John Chapman. Kevin Lee's relationship with Dennehy was complex and reflected her ability to manipulate men through a combination of sexual attraction and psychological control. Despite being aware of her unstable nature and criminal tendencies, Lee had continued his association with her, apparently believing he could manage the risks involved. The murder of Lee took place under circumstances that demonstrated Dennehy's increasing boldness and disregard for consequences. The attack occurred in broad daylight and involved a level of violence that exceeded even her previous crimes. The brutality of the assault suggested that Dennehy was not only comfortable with killing but was actually deriving increasing pleasure from the act itself. Following Lee's murder, Dennehy engaged in behavior that revealed disturbing aspects of her psychological state. She posed for photographs with the body and made comments to accomplices that indicated she viewed the murder as entertaining rather than tragic. This post-mortem behavior provided crucial evidence of her complete lack of empathy and normal emotional responses. The disposal of Kevin Lee's body was different from her previous murders and suggested that Dennehy was beginning to use the crimes themselves as a form of communication or display. The body was dressed in women's clothing and positioned in a way that was clearly intended to shock and disturb those who discovered it. This staging revealed Dennehy's desire not just to kill, but to create maximum psychological impact through her crimes. After completing her 3 murders in Peterborough, Joanna Dennehy's criminal behavior entered a new and even more dangerous phase. Rather than attempting to flee or lay low to avoid detection, she instead decided to expand her killing spree to include random attacks on complete strangers. This escalation represented a significant development in her criminal pattern and demonstrated the evolution of her psychological state. On March 30, 2013, the day after murdering Kevin Lee, Dennehy traveled to Hereford with Gary Stretch, ostensibly to evade police investigation in Peterborough. However, rather than simply hiding, she began actively seeking new victims among the local population. This behavior revealed that her motivation for killing had evolved beyond any personal grievances or practical considerations to become a compulsive need for violence. The first random attack occurred when Dennehy approached Robin Baraza, a 64-year-old dog walker, in a park in Hereford. Without warning or provocation, she stabbed him multiple times with a large knife. The attack was swift and brutal, demonstrating her comfort with violence against complete strangers who posed no threat to her. Baraza survived the attack, but his injuries were severe and life-threatening. The random nature of the assault sent shockwaves through the local community and demonstrated that no one was safe from Dennehy's violence. The fact that she had chosen an elderly man walking his dog as a victim revealed the completely indiscriminate nature of her killing impulse. Less than 2 hours after attacking Baraza, Dennehy struck again, this time targeting John Rogers, a 56-year-old man who was simply walking through the same area. Like the previous attack, this assault was completely random and unprovoked. Rogers was stabbed multiple times but also survived, though he suffered serious injuries that required extensive medical treatment. The 2 random attacks in Hereford represented a significant escalation in Dennehy's criminal behavior. Unlike her previous murders, which had involved people she knew and had some form of relationship with, these attacks demonstrated her willingness and ability to kill complete strangers based solely on opportunity and impulse. Joanna Dennehy's crimes present a unique opportunity to study female serial killing, a phenomenon that is statistically rare and often differs significantly from male patterns of serial murder. Her case challenges many conventional assumptions about female criminality and provides insights into the psychological factors that can drive women to commit extreme acts of violence. Traditional research on female serial killers has identified several common characteristics that distinguish them from their male counterparts. Female serial killers typically target family members, intimate partners, or individuals under their care. They often use poison or other methods that require less physical confrontation and are motivated by financial gain, revenge, or psychological gratification derived from control over vulnerable victims. Dennehy's crimes deviated from these patterns in several significant ways. Her victims included both acquaintances and complete strangers. Her method involved direct physical confrontation using knives, and her motivation appeared to be primarily the psychological gratification derived from the act of killing itself rather than any practical benefit. Psychological evaluation of Dennehy revealed characteristics consistent with psychopathic personality disorder, including lack of empathy, shallow emotional responses, manipulative behavior, and a grandiose sense of self-worth. These traits, combined with apparent sadistic tendencies, created a personality structure that was capable of extreme violence without the normal psychological barriers that prevent most people from harming others. The development of Dennehy's criminal behavior also provided insights into how female violence can escalate. Her progression from relatively minor criminal offenses to murder over a period of years demonstrated that the capacity for extreme violence can develop gradually in women, just as it does in men, though the specific triggers and manifestations may differ. Her relationship with male accomplices revealed another important aspect of female serial killing. While male serial killers often work alone or in partnerships with other males, Dennehy's ability to manipulate and control men to assist in her crimes represented a distinctly feminine approach to criminal organization. The crimes committed by Joanna Dennehy were not carried out in isolation but were facilitated by a network of accomplices who played various roles in the murders and their aftermath. Understanding the dynamics of this criminal network is crucial to comprehending how Dennehy was able to commit multiple murders and initially evade detection. Gary Stretch, standing 7 feet 3 inches tall, became Dennehy's primary accomplice and was instrumental in both the commission of the crimes and the disposal of evidence. Despite his imposing physical presence, Stretch appeared to be completely dominated by Dennehy, following her instructions without question and participating in increasingly serious criminal acts at her direction. The relationship between Dennehy and Stretch illustrated her remarkable ability to exert psychological control over others, despite being physically smaller and ostensibly less threatening. She used a combination of sexual manipulation, psychological intimidation, and the promise of excitement and adventure to maintain Stretch's loyalty and compliance. Leslie Layton, another member of the criminal network, played a crucial role in concealing evidence of the murders. His involvement demonstrated how Dennehy was able to recruit multiple individuals to support her criminal activities, creating a web of complicity that helped her avoid immediate detection and prosecution. The psychology of these accomplices revealed important insights into how charismatic criminals are able to recruit and maintain support for their activities. Each of the individuals who assisted Dennehy appeared to be vulnerable to her manipulation in different ways, suggesting that she was skilled at identifying and exploiting specific psychological weaknesses in others. The criminal network also revealed the social dynamics that can develop around violent criminals. Rather than being isolated individuals, serial killers like Dennehy often exist within communities of marginal individuals who may be drawn to the excitement and sense of power that comes from association with dangerous personalities. The investigation into Joanna Dennehy's crimes began when the bodies of her first victims were discovered in ditches around Peterborough in late March and early April 2013. The discovery of multiple bodies in a short time period immediately alerted law enforcement to the possibility of a serial killer operating in the area. The initial phase of the investigation was complicated by the disposal methods used for the bodies and the apparent lack of obvious connections between the victims. However, forensic evidence and witness statements gradually began to reveal patterns that pointed toward a single perpetrator and her associates. The breakthrough in the investigation came when forensic analysis of the crime scenes and victim examination revealed similar knife wounds and attack patterns. This evidence, combined with witness statements from individuals who had seen the victims with Dennehy shortly before their deaths, began to focus police attention on her as the primary suspect. The investigation revealed the systematic nature of Dennehy's crimes and the level of planning and coordination involved in their execution and concealment. Phone records, CCTV footage, and forensic evidence painted a picture of a well-organized criminal operation that had been operating for several weeks before being detected. As the investigation progressed and evidence mounted against Dennehy, she became aware of police interest in her activities. Rather than attempting to flee immediately, she chose to escalate her criminal behavior by traveling to Hereford and committing the random attacks that would ultimately lead to her capture. The manhunt for Dennehy intensified after the attacks in Hereford, which provided law enforcement with real-time intelligence about her location and activities. The random nature of these attacks also increased the urgency of the investigation, as it became clear that she posed an immediate and ongoing threat to public safety. The end of Joanna Dennehy's killing spree came on March 30, 2013, just hours after her second random attack in Hereford. The rapid response of local law enforcement, combined with witness descriptions and CCTV evidence, led to her identification and capture before she could claim additional victims. The arrest took place when police spotted the vehicle being used by Dennehy and Gary Stretch near Hereford. Rather than attempting to flee or resist arrest, both individuals surrendered to police without significant incident. This relatively peaceful arrest stood in stark contrast to the extreme violence they had been perpetrating just hours earlier. Dennehy's demeanor during and immediately after her arrest provided additional insights into her psychological state. Rather than showing remorse, fear, or anxiety about her situation, she appeared calm and even seemed to enjoy the attention her crimes had generated. This reaction was consistent with her apparent lack of empathy and normal emotional responses. The initial questioning of Dennehy revealed her willingness to discuss her crimes in detail, though her accounts were often inconsistent and appeared designed more to shock and disturb investigators than to provide accurate information. Her approach to the interrogation process demonstrated her continued attempts to maintain control and manipulate those around her. Gary Stretch and the other accomplices were arrested in subsequent operations as the investigation expanded to include all individuals who had assisted in the crimes or their concealment. The arrests of these accomplices provided law enforcement with additional evidence and witness testimony that would prove crucial in the prosecution phase. The capture of Dennehy ended what had become one of the most intensive manhunts in recent British criminal history. The speed with which she was apprehended after the random attacks demonstrated both the effectiveness of modern police investigative techniques and the dedication of law enforcement officers who recognized the extreme danger she posed to public safety. The legal proceedings against Joanna Dennehy began with her first court appearance in April 2013, where she was formally charged with 3 counts of murder and 2 counts of attempted murder. The severity of the charges and the evidence against her made it clear that she would likely face life imprisonment if convicted. From the beginning of the legal process, Dennehy's behavior in court was designed to attract attention and disturb those present. She showed no remorse for her crimes and often appeared to be enjoying the proceedings, smiling and making inappropriate comments that demonstrated her continued lack of empathy for her victims and their families. The prosecution's case against Dennehy was built on overwhelming physical evidence, witness testimony, and her own admissions to various aspects of the crimes. Forensic evidence linking her to all 3 murder scenes, combined with testimony from accomplices and witnesses, created an virtually unshakable case for her guilt. The question of Dennehy's mental state became a central issue in the legal proceedings, though not because there was any doubt about her responsibility for the crimes. Instead, the focus was on understanding the psychological factors that had driven her to commit such extreme acts of violence and determining the appropriate sentence. Psychiatric evaluation of Dennehy revealed a complex personality structure characterized by psychopathic traits, sadistic tendencies, and apparent inability to form normal emotional attachments to other human beings. These findings helped explain her capacity for extreme violence but did not diminish her legal responsibility for her actions. The defense strategy in Dennehy's case was limited by her obvious guilt and the overwhelming evidence against her. Rather than attempting to deny her responsibility for the crimes, her legal team focused on mitigating factors related to her mental health and background that might influence sentencing. On February 28, 2014, Joanna Dennehy was sentenced to life imprisonment with a whole life order, meaning she would never be eligible for parole. The sentence made her only the third woman in British legal history to receive such a severe punishment, reflecting both the gravity of her crimes and the assessment that she posed a permanent danger to society. The whole life order was justified by several factors, including the multiple murders, the random nature of some of the attacks, the extreme violence employed, and the complete lack of remorse shown by Dennehy. The judge noted that her crimes were among the most serious that could be imagined and that there was no realistic prospect of rehabilitation. The sentencing established important legal precedents regarding female criminality and the application of whole life orders. Dennehy's case demonstrated that the most severe sentences available under British law would be applied to female offenders when their crimes warranted such punishment, regardless of gender-based assumptions about criminal behavior. The sentences imposed on Dennehy's accomplices varied based on their level of involvement in the crimes. Gary Stretch received a life sentence with a minimum term of 19 years for his role in the murders and attempted murders. Leslie Layton received a sentence of 14 years for helping to dispose of evidence and assisting an offender. The legal proceedings also established important precedents regarding the prosecution of accomplices in serial murder cases. The varying sentences reflected the court's recognition that while all participants bore responsibility for the crimes, their levels of culpability differed based on their specific roles and the degree of their involvement. The international attention focused on Dennehy's case and sentencing contributed to broader discussions about female criminality, serial killing, and the appropriate response of the criminal justice system to the most serious offenses. Her case became a reference point for legal professionals dealing with similar cases in other jurisdictions. Since beginning her life sentence, Joanna Dennehy has been housed in some of Britain's most secure prison facilities, where she continues to pose challenges to prison staff and fellow inmates. Her behavior in prison has provided additional insights into her personality and the ongoing risk she poses to others. Reports from prison staff indicate that Dennehy has shown no signs of rehabilitation or remorse for her crimes. Instead, she appears to view her notoriety as a source of pride and continues to exhibit the manipulative and potentially violent behavior that characterized her life before imprisonment. Incidents within the prison system have included attempts to form inappropriate relationships with staff members, efforts to manipulate other inmates, and continuing expressions of violent fantasies. These behaviors have necessitated her placement in high-security conditions with limited contact with others. The management of Dennehy within the prison system has required specialized approaches designed to minimize her opportunities to harm others while maintaining basic human rights standards. This has included psychological monitoring, restricted movement, and careful screening of her communications and visitors. Her case has contributed to discussions within the British prison system about how to manage the most dangerous female offenders. The rarity of female prisoners who pose such extreme risks has necessitated the development of new policies and procedures specifically designed to address the challenges they present. The ongoing costs associated with housing and managing Dennehy in the prison system have also contributed to broader discussions about the economic implications of whole life sentences and the resources required to safely contain the most dangerous criminals. The crimes committed by Joanna Dennehy had devastating and lasting impacts on the families of her victims and the survivors of her attacks. Understanding these impacts is crucial to comprehending the full scope of harm caused by her criminal behavior and the ongoing consequences of her actions. The families of Łukasz Slabazuski, John Chapman, and Kevin Lee each faced unique challenges in dealing with their losses. The sudden and violent nature of the murders, combined with the apparent randomness of the selection process, made it particularly difficult for family members to find meaning or closure in their losses. For the family of Łukasz Slabazuski, the tragedy was compounded by the fact that he was far from his home country and support network when he was murdered. His death not only robbed his family of a beloved son and brother but also ended his hopes of building a better life and supporting his family back in Poland. John Chapman's family struggled with the betrayal involved in his murder, as he had been attempting to help Dennehy when she killed him. The senseless nature of his death and the violation of his trust made the grieving process particularly complex and difficult for those who loved him. Kevin Lee's family faced additional challenges due to the circumstances of his relationship with Dennehy and the way his body was discovered and displayed. The humiliation and shock associated with these aspects of the crime added layers of trauma to their already devastating loss. The survivors of Dennehy's attacks, Robin Baraza and John Rogers, faced their own ongoing challenges related to both their physical recovery and the psychological trauma of their experiences. Both men required extensive medical treatment and ongoing support to deal with the lasting effects of their encounters with Dennehy. The case of Joanna Dennehy attracted extensive media coverage both in Britain and internationally, reflecting public fascination with female serial killers and the unusual nature of her crimes. The media attention, while serving legitimate public interest in understanding the case, also raised important questions about the responsible reporting of criminal cases. The coverage of Dennehy's crimes often focused on the unusual aspects of her gender and appearance, with many outlets emphasizing the contradiction between her identity as a mother and her capacity for extreme violence. This focus, while understandable, sometimes overshadowed more important aspects of the case related to criminal psychology and victim impact. The tendency of some media outlets to sensationalize aspects of Dennehy's crimes and personality raised concerns about the potential for such coverage to inspire copycat crimes or to traumatize the families of victims and survivors. These concerns highlighted the need for responsible journalism when covering cases involving extreme violence. The international attention focused on the case also contributed to important discussions about female criminality and the factors that can lead women to commit acts of extreme violence. Scholarly articles and documentary programs examining Dennehy's case have contributed to broader understanding of these complex issues. The public fascination with Dennehy's case has persisted long after her sentencing, with continued interest in her background, psychology, and current situation. This ongoing attention reflects broader societal questions about the nature of evil and the factors that can transform apparently ordinary individuals into violent criminals. The case has also become a reference point in popular culture, appearing in books, documentaries, and other media productions that attempt to understand and explain her crimes. While this attention has educational value, it also raises questions about the potential for such coverage to glorify or romanticize serious criminal behavior. The crimes committed by Joanna Dennehy provide an important case study for criminological analysis and the application of various theoretical frameworks for understanding criminal behavior. Her case challenges conventional theories about female criminality and offers insights into the complex factors that can lead to serial murder. Traditional feminist criminological theory has emphasized the different pathways to crime for men and women, suggesting that female criminal behavior is often driven by factors such as economic marginalization, victimization, and relationship problems. While some of these factors may have been present in Dennehy's background, they fail to fully explain the extreme nature of her crimes. Psychological theories focusing on personality disorders and psychopathy provide more useful frameworks for understanding Dennehy's behavior. Her apparent lack of empathy, shallow emotional responses, and grandiose self-image are consistent with psychopathic personality traits that have been associated with serial killing behavior in both men and women. Social learning theory suggests that criminal behavior can be learned through observation and reinforcement of antisocial activities. Dennehy's progression from minor criminal offenses to murder may reflect a gradual learning process in which she became increasingly comfortable with violence and criminal behavior. The routine activities theory of crime suggests that criminal events occur when motivated offenders encounter suitable targets in the absence of capable guardians. Dennehy's crimes can be understood within this framework, as she specifically sought out vulnerable victims who were unlikely to be able to defend themselves or quickly missed if they disappeared. Strain theory, which focuses on the disconnect between culturally prescribed goals and the legitimate means available to achieve them, may also provide insights into Dennehy's criminal development. Her apparent desire for excitement, power, and notoriety combined with limited legitimate opportunities to achieve these goals may have contributed to her turn toward criminal behavior. Comparing Joanna Dennehy's crimes with those of other female serial killers provides important insights into the similarities and differences in how women commit serial murder. While female serial killers are statistically rare, there are enough documented cases to allow for meaningful comparative analysis. Aileen Wuornos, one of the most famous female serial killers, shared some characteristics with Dennehy, including a willingness to use direct violence and to target strangers. However, Wuornos' crimes were primarily motivated by survival and occurred in the context of prostitution, while Dennehy's murders appeared to be motivated primarily by psychological gratification. Dorothea Puente, the Death House landlady, represents a more typical pattern of female serial killing, using poison to murder vulnerable individuals under her care for financial gain. Her crimes were carefully planned and executed to avoid detection, contrasting sharply with Dennehy's apparently impulsive and attention-seeking behavior. Belle Gunnes, a Norwegian-American serial killer from the early 20th century, used a combination of methods to murder multiple victims, primarily men who had come to marry her. Like Dennehy, Gunnes demonstrated a willingness to use extreme violence, but her crimes were motivated by financial gain rather than psychological satisfaction. The comparison with other female serial killers reveals that while Dennehy's crimes were unusual in their directness and apparent randomness, they share certain characteristics with other cases. These include the targeting of vulnerable individuals, the use of manipulation and deception, and the presence of underlying personality disorders. The rarity of female serial killers who use direct violence against strangers makes Dennehy's case particularly significant for criminological research. Her crimes provide insights into the full range of criminal behavior that women are capable of, challenging assumptions about gender and violence that have influenced both academic research and criminal justice practices. The investigation and prosecution of Joanna Dennehy's crimes had significant impacts on law enforcement practices and criminal justice procedures in Britain. Her case highlighted both strengths and weaknesses in existing systems and contributed to improvements in how similar cases are handled. The initial investigation of the murders demonstrated the importance of coordinated multi-agency responses to serial crime. The collaboration between local police forces, forensic specialists, and other law enforcement agencies was crucial to the rapid identification and apprehension of Dennehy and her accomplices. The case also highlighted the importance of recognizing patterns in criminal behavior that might indicate the presence of a serial offender. The discovery of multiple bodies in a short time period triggered appropriate investigative responses that might have been delayed if the crimes had been treated as isolated incidents. The prosecution of Dennehy's case established important precedents regarding the handling of female defendants in serious criminal cases. The decision to seek and obtain a whole life sentence demonstrated that gender would not be a mitigating factor when dealing with the most serious criminal offenses. The case contributed to training programs for law enforcement officers regarding the investigation of serial crimes and the psychological profiling of offenders. Dennehy's crimes provided a valuable case study for understanding how serial killers operate and how they can be apprehended. The management of Dennehy and her accomplices during the legal proceedings also provided lessons about courtroom security and the handling of dangerous defendants. Her behavior during court appearances highlighted the need for appropriate security measures and procedures for managing disruptive defendants. The case of Joanna Dennehy has contributed significantly to psychological and therapeutic understanding of extreme criminal behavior, particularly regarding female perpetrators of serious violent crimes. Her psychological profile and behavior have provided valuable insights for mental health professionals working in forensic settings. The psychological evaluation of Dennehy revealed a complex personality structure that combined psychopathic traits with sadistic tendencies and apparent inability to form normal emotional connections. This combination of factors has helped researchers better understand the psychological mechanisms that can lead to serial killing behavior. Her case has also contributed to understanding of how personality disorders can interact with environmental factors to produce extreme criminal behavior. The progression of her criminal activity from minor offenses to murder illustrates how underlying psychological problems can escalate under certain circumstances. The complete absence of remorse or empathy displayed by Dennehy has provided insights into the most severe forms of antisocial personality disorder. Her case has been used in training programs for mental health professionals to help them recognize and understand the characteristics of truly dangerous individuals. The challenges involved in managing Dennehy within the prison system have also contributed to understanding of how to work with individuals who pose extreme risks to others. Her case has informed the development of specialized treatment and management approaches for the most dangerous offenders. The apparent impossibility of rehabilitation in Dennehy's case has contributed to ongoing debates about the purposes of imprisonment and the potential for treatment of individuals with severe personality disorders. Her case illustrates the limitations of therapeutic interventions with certain types of offenders. The crimes committed by Joanna Dennehy offer important lessons and implications for society's understanding of criminal behavior, public safety, and the criminal justice system. Her case challenges assumptions and provides insights that extend far beyond the specific details of her crimes. One of the most significant lessons from Dennehy's case is the importance of recognizing that extreme criminal behavior can emerge from unexpected sources. Her identity as a relatively young mother challenged stereotypical assumptions about who is capable of serial murder and highlighted the need for law enforcement and mental health professionals to remain open to all possibilities when assessing criminal behavior. The case also demonstrates the crucial role that early intervention and mental health treatment might play in preventing the escalation of criminal behavior. While it is unclear whether intervention could have prevented Dennehy's crimes, her case illustrates the importance of identifying and addressing psychological problems before they lead to violent behavior. The involvement of accomplices in Dennehy's crimes highlights the ways in which dangerous individuals can recruit others to assist in their criminal activities. Understanding these dynamics is crucial for law enforcement and can help in preventing and investigating similar crimes. The impact of Dennehy's crimes on victims' families and survivors demonstrates the far-reaching consequences of violent criminal behavior. Her case underscores the importance of victim support services and the need for comprehensive approaches to dealing with the aftermath of serious crimes. The media coverage of Dennehy's case raises important questions about the responsible reporting of criminal cases and the potential for sensationalized coverage to cause additional harm to victims and their families. The balance between public interest and responsible journalism remains an ongoing challenge in cases involving extreme violence. The case has also contributed to ongoing discussions about the effectiveness of the criminal justice system in dealing with the most serious offenders. Dennehy's whole life sentence represents society's recognition that some individuals pose such extreme risks that they can never safely be released, regardless of their potential for rehabilitation. The international attention focused on Joanna Dennehy's case has provided opportunities for comparative analysis of how different criminal justice systems handle female serial killers and extreme violent crime. Her case has been studied by criminologists and legal professionals in multiple countries, contributing to global understanding of these rare but significant criminal phenomena. In the United States, where whole life sentences are more common, Dennehy's case has been compared to similar female offenders who have received death sentences or life without parole. The differences in sentencing philosophies between British and American systems have generated academic discussion about the most appropriate responses to serial murder. European criminologists have used Dennehy's case to examine the effectiveness of different approaches to managing dangerous offenders. Her case has been particularly relevant to discussions about preventive detention and the balance between public safety and offender rights in various European legal systems. The comparative rarity of female serial killers has made Dennehy's case particularly valuable for international research into gender differences in criminal behavior. Her crimes have been studied alongside similar cases from other countries to identify common patterns and unique features that might inform prevention and intervention strategies. The psychological assessment techniques used in Dennehy's case have also been compared with approaches used in other countries, contributing to the development of more effective methods for evaluating dangerous offenders and predicting future risk. The case of Joanna Dennehy has highlighted significant questions about the role of mental health services in identifying and treating individuals who may pose risks to public safety. While Dennehy did not have extensive documented contact with mental health services prior to her crimes, her case illustrates the challenges faced by these services in identifying and managing potentially dangerous individuals. The psychological profile that emerged during Dennehy's evaluation revealed characteristics that might have been identifiable earlier in her life, raising questions about whether appropriate intervention could have prevented her crimes. However, the practical challenges of identifying and treating individuals with severe personality disorders before they commit serious crimes remain significant. The case has contributed to discussions about the relationship between mental illness and criminal behavior, particularly regarding individuals with personality disorders who may not meet traditional criteria for mental illness but who nonetheless pose significant risks to others. These discussions have implications for both clinical practice and legal policy. Mental health professionals working in forensic settings have used Dennehy's case as a training example to help them recognize the signs of extreme dangerousness and develop appropriate risk assessment and management strategies. Her case has been particularly valuable in training programs focused on female offenders, who are often underrepresented in forensic psychology education. The ongoing management of Dennehy within the prison system has also provided insights into the long-term treatment and containment of individuals with severe personality disorders. Her case has informed the development of specialized programs and approaches for managing the most dangerous offenders. The investigation of Joanna Dennehy's crimes benefited from and contributed to advances in forensic technology and investigative techniques that have become increasingly important in modern criminal investigations. Her case demonstrated both the power and limitations of contemporary forensic science in solving complex criminal cases. DNA analysis played a crucial role in linking Dennehy to the crime scenes and victims, providing definitive evidence of her involvement in the murders. The rapid processing and analysis of DNA evidence was particularly important given the compressed timeline of her killing spree and the need to apprehend her before she could claim additional victims. Digital forensics, including analysis of mobile phone records and CCTV footage, provided crucial evidence about Dennehy's movements and activities during the period of her crimes. This technological evidence was particularly valuable in establishing timelines and connecting her to specific locations and events. The use of geographical profiling techniques helped investigators understand the spatial patterns of Dennehy's crimes and predict where she might strike next. While her decision to travel to Hereford complicated these analyses, the techniques still provided valuable insights into her behavior patterns. The case also highlighted the importance of rapid information sharing between different law enforcement agencies and the use of modern communication technologies to coordinate investigations across multiple jurisdictions. The quick identification and apprehension of Dennehy after her random attacks demonstrated the effectiveness of these systems. Forensic pathology analysis of the victims provided crucial evidence about Dennehy's methods and the extreme violence she employed. This evidence was particularly important in understanding her psychological state and the escalation of her criminal behavior. The case of Joanna Dennehy has become an important educational tool for training law enforcement officers, legal professionals, mental health workers, and criminology students. Her crimes provide a comprehensive case study that illustrates many important principles and challenges in these fields. Police training programs have used Dennehy's case to teach officers about the investigation of serial crimes, the importance of recognizing patterns in criminal behavior, and the challenges of apprehending dangerous offenders. Her case is particularly valuable for training because it demonstrates both effective investigative techniques and the unpredictable nature of serial criminal behavior. Legal education programs have incorporated Dennehy's case into curricula focusing on serious criminal law, sentencing policy, and the prosecution of complex criminal cases. Her case provides an excellent example of how the legal system responds to the most serious criminal offenses and the factors that influence sentencing decisions. Mental health training programs have used Dennehy's case to teach students about personality disorders, risk assessment, and the challenges of working with dangerous individuals. Her psychological profile provides a clear example of severe antisocial personality disorder and its potential consequences. Criminology courses have used Dennehy's case to explore theories of criminal behavior, gender differences in criminality, and the factors that contribute to serial killing behavior. Her case challenges many traditional assumptions about female criminality and provides opportunities for students to critically examine criminological theories. The case has also been used in victim services training programs to help professionals understand the impact of violent crime on survivors and families. The experiences of Dennehy's victims and their families provide important lessons about trauma, recovery, and the need for comprehensive support services. More than a decade after her crimes, Joanna Dennehy's case continues to have lasting impacts on British society and culture. Her crimes challenged fundamental assumptions about safety, gender, and the nature of evil, leaving effects that extend far beyond the immediate victims and their families. The case contributed to broader discussions about public safety and the factors that can lead apparently ordinary individuals to commit extraordinary acts of violence. These discussions have influenced public policy, law enforcement practices, and social attitudes toward crime and criminal justice. Dennehy's crimes also had specific impacts on the communities where they occurred, particularly Peterborough and Hereford. These communities had to grapple with the reality that such extreme violence could occur in their midst and develop strategies for healing and moving forward. The case has influenced popular culture, appearing in numerous books, documentaries, and other media productions that have attempted to understand and explain her crimes. While this cultural attention has educational value, it also raises questions about the potential glorification of criminal behavior and its impact on public attitudes. Academic research into Dennehy's case has contributed to evolving understanding of female criminality, serial murder, and the factors that contribute to extreme violent behavior. This research has influenced both theoretical understanding and practical approaches to crime prevention and criminal justice. The ongoing incarceration of Dennehy continues to generate discussions about the purposes of imprisonment, the possibility of rehabilitation, and the appropriate response of society to its most dangerous members. Her case remains a reference point in debates about criminal justice policy and practice. The case of Joanna Dennehy forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about human nature and the capacity for evil that exists within our society. Her crimes represent one of the most extreme examples of female violence in British criminal history and challenge many of our fundamental assumptions about gender, violence, and criminal behavior. What makes Dennehy's case particularly disturbing is not just the brutality of her crimes, but the apparent pleasure she derived from inflicting suffering on others. Her complete lack of empathy or remorse, combined with her obvious intelligence and manipulative abilities, created a particularly dangerous combination that resulted in tragedy for multiple victims and their families. The case demonstrates that serial murder is not exclusively a male phenomenon and that women can be capable of the same extreme violence traditionally associated with male offenders. This recognition has important implications for law enforcement, criminal justice, and our understanding of criminal behavior more generally. Perhaps most importantly, Dennehy's case illustrates the complex interplay of psychological, social, and environmental factors that can contribute to the development of extreme criminal behavior. While we may never fully understand what drove her to commit such heinous acts, her case provides valuable insights into the darkest aspects of human psychology. The victims of Dennehy's crimes, Łukasz Slabazuski, John Chapman, Kevin Lee, Robin Baraza, and John Rogers, must not be forgotten in any analysis of her case. Their suffering and the impact on their families represent the true tragedy of these crimes and serve as a reminder of the human cost of such violence. The investigation, prosecution, and ongoing incarceration of Joanna Dennehy demonstrate society's commitment to justice and public safety. While her crimes represent a failure of prevention, the response of the criminal justice system shows that even the most dangerous offenders can be apprehended and held accountable for their actions. For students of criminal justice, psychology, and criminology, the case of Joanna Dennehy provides crucial lessons about the complexity of criminal behavior and the challenges faced by professionals working to understand and prevent such crimes. Her case will continue to be studied and analyzed for years to come as we seek to better understand the factors that can lead to such extreme violence. The legacy of Dennehy's crimes extends far beyond her individual case to broader questions about how society identifies, treats, and manages individuals who pose extreme risks to others. Her case has contributed to important developments in criminal justice practice, mental health treatment, and our understanding of the most serious forms of criminal behavior. Ultimately, the case of Joanna Dennehy serves as both a cautionary tale about the potential for evil that exists within human nature and a testament to the resilience of society in responding to such extreme challenges. While her crimes represent some of the worst aspects of human behavior, the response of victims, families, law enforcement, and the broader community demonstrates the strength and determination that can emerge in the face of tragedy. The study of cases like Dennehy's is essential for developing our understanding of criminal behavior and improving our ability to prevent, investigate, and respond to such crimes. While we may never be able to completely prevent individuals like Joanna Dennehy from causing harm, we can learn from her case to better protect society and support those who are affected by such extreme violence. This case study represents one of the most significant examples of female serial killing in modern British criminal history. The detailed examination of Joanna Dennehy's crimes, psychology, and impact provides crucial insights into the nature of extreme criminal behavior and the challenges facing society in understanding and responding to such violence. Her case continues to influence criminal justice practice, academic research, and public understanding of the most serious forms of criminal behavior.